Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 20 of Code Geass. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, for unexplained reasons, Lelouch, Suzaku, Euphemia, and Callan ended up on a deserted island, and although they were found and rescued, Suzaku's, presumably been arrested for insubordination again thanks to a little incident with the Geass. And I guess Schneizel El Britannia has now entered the fray. So, frankly, I have no idea where things are going, but it seems like things are only getting more and more intense, really. You know, I guess it's no surprise that everyone's at a loss and turning to Zero for guidance, but I don't know what he can really do about this. So I guess there's also the matter of Lelouch having stolen the Gawain, which is, a brand new prototype nightmare frame. And, if I had to guess, I would assume it's probably on par with the Lancelot, or at least in the same bracket, for want of a better term. What little I know of Arthurian myth. So, if that were the only problem, that would be one thing, but it seems like there's definitely a battle brewing. I do recall at the end of the previous episode, there was a bit with a bunch of boats where it seemed like they might have been from the Chinese Federation, but they were really, Japanese ships, or at least that was how they were marked. You never do really know. I don't think we were given actual direct confirmation. It could be a false flag, you never know. Now, it's interesting that Suzaku's taking things so hard. I guess it's not unusual, but he's even sort of recusing himself from being Euphemia's knight. I feel like, if anything, that would be his one sort of refuge, but wow. So he's just telling everyone now. I thought this was supposed to be like a big guarded secret to him, but, it's just sort of gotten out and now he's telling everybody. Like, I guess this is the result of Zero twisting the knife a little bit, but, on the one hand, I get it, he's repenting and all that, which you should do when you do bad things, but, I don't know if you should so wantonly declare that you've done this, Okay, so, it seems as though this is the Chinese Federation acting in open aggression. So I guess the idea is that they want to seize part of Area 11, which is understandable, but, I'm not sure how well the Britannian Empire would fare in a naval war, just because it seemed like the conquering of Area 11 was mainly the result of the Nightmare Frames acting as shock troops. You know, maybe they had like a naval blockade and everything, but it really seemed like they didn't need naval superiority. Okay, so it seems like things are a fair bit more serious than Euphemia was led to believe, with Cornelia having to be on active duty all the time. I guess that's what happens when you're the Governor General, but, you know... Oh, Pizza Hut. There we go. You know, I was going to talk about naval combat and all that, but, Pizza Hut is truly more important. Ah, man. So I guess at any rate, like, if these students are learning about it, that's probably got to be pretty disquieting to be, you know, on essentially this little archipelago while, enemy forces are closing in from all sides. I mean, it isn't truly all sides. It seems like they just wanted to conquer Kyushu, but that would be, you know, a foothold into the mainland, which is, you know, not ideal for either side, really, but, it's something. You know, I guess this is where, like, my cursory knowledge of the Second World War comes into play here, because that was widely considered to be, like, a real bad thing to do. You know, a mainland invasion of Japan by the Allied forces. But, you know, never mind all that, because it seems like Shirley has stumbled across something she shouldn't have had. You know, essentially like a little hint that maybe she did know Lelouch and Nunnally, even though the Geass has led her to believe otherwise. So I guess the question is, like, what's the limit here? Will the Geass eventually break if she's presented with enough evidence, or will it wear off on its own? I mean, I guess more importantly, the Lancelot's being outfitted with what seems to be like a sort of a jetpack apparatus. I mean, that's really like the only thing you can do to make it more dangerous, you know, make it exceedingly mobile on air, land, and sea. Ooh. Okay, that's something. You know, so I guess Euphemia at this point does realize that Lelouch and Zero are one and the same. You know, it kind of seemed like Lelouch had successfully lied to her, but... you know, it's unfortunate that she's in this position where she knows what she does. Because, you know, she would want to avenge Clovis being a relative, but... You know, Lelouch benefits from the same, I guess, prejudice for want of a better term. You know, she is predisposed to liking him because he's family. So, yeah, it's not good that she knows. You know, I don't feel like she's gonna tell everyone, but at the same time, from Lelouch's point of view, she's a loose end, and one that's likely going to have to be taken care of sooner rather than later, regardless of how innocent and good she is. Ooh. That's interesting. The main objective here is to form an independent country in Tokyo, which, you know, that seems like a pretty big step to essentially steal land, and not just land, but the capital of Area 11, and sort of cordon it off from the rest. I mean, you know, I guess the idea of forming, like, your own independent territory and moving from there on out, like, that's something, you know, you have sovereignty and all that, but it's the starting with Tokyo that has me a bit uneasy, because I feel like, that might not be your best bet. And I'm wondering if, geographically speaking... Oh, wow. Wow. Nina's, acting real out of pocket here. And, at least Euphemia understands that she's not a threat, seemingly, but, wow. Seems like Mr. Table no longer suffices. Oh boy. But either way, I feel like starting with Tokyo, like, I don't recall exactly how it fares geographically if it's relatively isolated, but I feel like you would want to start with somewhere kind of isolated that you can, get without having to worry about reinforcements, and then, reinforce from within. Oh boy. So the Lancelot is being deployed to handle incoming missiles. Or rather, that's what Suzaku would think, but, I guess the missiles don't really, affect a ship with shielding like that. So, if the giant robots weren't enough, we're squarely moving into the realm of science fiction by now. Okay. So I guess the idea is that the Lancelot is being used as a shock troop as well. The idea is like you get in behind enemy lines and you attack the headquarters real quickly before they can do anything. Which, that's probably about as good a use for it as any, really. I mean, especially seeing as how the Lancelot sort of operates alone. It's not like it's backed up by a squad or anything. And I guess, really, if you're only a single target, like, what can they do against something so small and maneuverable? Like, enemy intelligence thinks it's a bomber, but, like, it really isn't, and boy howdy, that's gotta be a rude awakening. Okay. So it's this Sawasaki guy who's sort of the pretense for this whole invasion, and if they can get rid of him, the Chinese Federation will back off. And I believe, if I remember the name correctly, he was that old guy Lelouch had convened with briefly a couple episodes ago. So the idea is, like, decapitating the snake, so to speak, will cripple this whole invasion. Oh, never mind. That's not who I thought it was. So interestingly, this guy knows of Suzaku, even if he doesn't know him personally. So, Euphemia has invited Nina in, and I guess, I can't fault her for doing that, but maybe I'd exercise a wee bit more caution with someone who is willing to get brutalized by the guards. Although, the poor girl's being awfully hard on herself, she's saying, my parents are commoners, I'm ugly, I'm good for nothing. I mean, I wouldn't say that's necessarily true, but, I don't know. There's something troublesome about her, between the incident with Mr. Table and, this, just like throwing herself at the guards to get, bludgeoned like that, I don't know. I feel like she's gonna cause trouble at some point, and it's not gonna be good. She might be, the fulcrum by which Euphemia comes to action against Lelouch or something. So it seems that this Sawasaki guy, he kinda knows a bit about Suzaku. Essentially, I know what you're doing. You want to take away Japan's independence and all that. And that's not strictly what Suzaku wants, but, it's more of a delaying tactic, trying to take his attention away from the actual combat. So, unfortunately, Suzaku really can't afford to get distracted like this. You know, he got the jetpack destroyed, he's running low on power, and he's down behind enemy lines. Like, this really isn't good, you know? Like, that's something. He's already having to engage emergency measures to conserve power. And now that's interesting. You know, Sawasaki's willing to, like, you know, treat him reasonably well considering who his father was, but, you know, that seems like kind of a trap to me. Fortunately, he's not going for it, but it seems as though Euphemia is going to give him the reassurance he really needs. Oh. Man, that's an order, alright. I order you to love me. Man, Nina's gotta be seething right now with jealousy if she were to hear about this. Like, woo, buddy. Mr. Table's gonna be in for a rough night, the poor guy. So, I guess, you know, this is getting him out of his funk, but I'm worried that maybe it's, you know, the wrong thing done for the right reasons, you know? Because, like, she might be right, she might be telling the truth, but I feel like, it might not be the time and the place, you know? I mean, I guess it does seem to be working, but I feel like it's only opening the possibility that something horrible happens. You know, either to Euphemia or to Suzaku, and, like, especially if they never get to act on things, you know? That would be especially horrible if Suzaku were to die in combat here. I mean, things aren't looking good if he were to just sort of walk into, the middle of a firing squad like that. Yeah, you know, it really does seem like it was kind of a bad move to confess like this, seeing as how the Lancelots run out of power. I mean, I guess he's hoping, you know, if you surrender, that's one thing, but, it seems like the Geass is still in effect. Which, that's interesting, you know, like, anytime his life is threatened, like, he has to do everything he can to live, which, it's interesting that it's a persistent effect. I guess what else is interesting is that, the Gawain has come to help out the Lancelot. You know, I feel like that is, I feel like there is a basis in Arthurian myth, but, it is also interesting that C2 is helping pilot. I mean, I guess when you get down to it, who else would really do it? You know, Lelouch can act, you know, more open than he would otherwise. Yeah, so this is interesting. You know, the Order of the Black Knights, like, they're not moving in full force here, but Lelouch intervening is certainly something. You know, it's a wild card that I don't think anybody's really prepared for. And the question is, to what end? You know, despite ostensibly being on the verge of killing each other before, Zero's come to save Suzaku. You know, like, he's brought, like, a spare battery pack. It's like, hey man, get out of here. So, yeah, you know, initially, I guess it doesn't really make sense from the outside, but knowing that Lelouch doesn't want his friend to die, you know, that makes a lot more sense. I wonder how everyone else would rationalize something like this. You know, I feel like you would only cast Suzaku in a poor light that Zero would be willing to help him out. You know, because, yeah, Zero is a scheming rat, but I don't know. I don't think his assistance of Suzaku would be looked upon favorably. I mean, I guess it makes more sense with Lelouch saying it now. It's like, the Black Knights oppose unreasonable violence. This violence is unreasonable, therefore, you know, I coincidentally currently align with the Britannian Empire temporarily. Now, it's interesting from Euphemia's standpoint that she knows what precisely is going on, and it's like, all the disparate people in her life are coming together, which is certainly nice, but, Ooh. So Kellen's feeling a bit left out, I guess. I can't imagine she would feel too jealous of C2, but, I guess with Shirley out of the picture, it's certainly a possibility. Yeah, so it seems like Sawasaki's getting out of Dodge while the getting's still good, but, unfortunately for him, it's not enough. Now, the real question is, are they just gonna, splat him like a bug or what? I feel like maybe they wouldn't, but you never know with Lelouch these days. I mean, surely he would just capture him for the easy PR victory, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is, pretty much like an unmitigated victory, right? Members of the old Japanese government have been captured along with officials from the Chinese Federation. That's, certainly not nothing considering the tensions with the Chinese Federation, Now you have bargaining chips on the table. And I guess if that weren't enough good news, Suzaku and Euphemia get to, maybe not consummate, but they get to capitalize on that little confession from before. It wasn't something said in vain because one or the other died. Ooh. So that's interesting. Euphemia is not interested in this whole business of countries and all that. She just wants to see the people she loves smile. And I feel like that in and of itself is kind of a dangerous goal to have. By prioritizing a few individuals over all else, you can very quickly bring a country to ruin, and therefore ruin things for everyone, including those you love. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.